The first time I heard my own voice coming from outside my grandfather's house, I was 14 years old. It was past midnight. The lights were off. My grandfather was sitting by the front door with a shotgun in his hands, whispering the same sentence over and over. "Whatever it says, don't answer." Then someone knocked. 3 soft knocks. Not loud, not angry, polite, like a person who had been invited. I was sitting on the floor behind the couch, shaking so badly I could barely breathe. Then my mother's voice came from the other side of the door.
"Ethan, honey, open up. It's freezing out here."
I almost stood up, because it was her voice. The same soft voice that called me downstairs for breakfast. The same voice that told me to be careful before I left home that evening. But my grandfather grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. "That is not your mother," he whispered. Outside, the thing knocked again, 3 times, and then it spoke in my voice. "Grandpa," it said, "don't listen to him. I'm outside." That was the night I learned there are things in the woods that don't just hunt you. Some of them learn you. I grew up in a place most people only pass through by accident. Our house stood at the edge of a tiny rural community in the Appalachian Mountains, almost 12 miles from the nearest town. There was one gas station, one church, a road full of potholes, and miles of dark pine forest in every direction. People there didn't go outside much after dark. Not because anyone had made a rule, they just knew better. At night, the woods felt different. During the day, they were just trees, dirt roads, birds, insects, and old hunting trails. But after sunset, the forest seemed to close in around everything. The tree line looked darker than it should. The wind sounded like whispering, and every house, no matter how warm the lights looked from inside, suddenly felt very far away from the rest of the world. My grandfather, Henry, lived about 2 miles from us. His old farmhouse sat past the tree line, down a narrow logging road that cut through the woods. He had no close neighbors, no streetlights, and almost no cell service, unless he stood on the back porch and held his phone over his head. I visited him all the time. When I was younger, I liked going there. Grandpa Henry had an old radio, a wood stove, a shed full of tools, and stories about things he claimed he'd seen in the mountains. Most of them sounded made up. He talked about strange lights between the trees, deer found standing still with their necks broken, and voices calling from places where no person could have been. I used to laugh at those stories. He never did. One evening in late October, my mother asked me to take him a bag of groceries and his blood pressure medicine. My dad was still at work, and Grandpa Henry hadn't answered his phone all afternoon. I looked outside. The sun had already slipped behind the hills, and the sky was turning that deep blue color that comes right before darkness. "I can go tomorrow," I said. My mother shook her head.
"He needs the medicine tonight. Just go straight there and come straight back."
I had walked that road 100 times. 2 miles wasn't far. So I grabbed my jacket, took a flashlight from the drawer, picked up the grocery bag, and left. For the first 10 minutes, everything felt normal. The gravel crunched under my shoes. Cold air burned in my nose. The trees moved gently in the wind. Somewhere far away, a dog barked once. Then it went quiet. Not gradually, just quiet. The insects stopped. The wind stopped. Even the trees seemed to stop creaking. I stood in the middle of the road, holding the grocery bag in one hand and the flashlight in the other, and listened. Nothing. That was the first moment I felt afraid. I kept walking anyway. The logging road narrowed as it entered the trees. My flashlight beam moved over wet leaves, broken branches, and pale tree trunks. The woods on both sides were thick enough that the light only reached a few feet before the darkness swallowed it. Halfway through the forest, I heard a branch snap. I stopped. The sound came from somewhere to my left. I raised the flashlight. At first, I saw nothing. Then I saw eyes, 2 yellow eyes, low between the trees. I froze. A coyote, I thought, or maybe a wolf. There weren't supposed to be wolves that close to the road, but my brain needed the thing to be something normal. The eyes didn't blink. They didn't move. I took one slow step backward. That was when the animal stood up. Not like a dog rising from the ground. Not like a bear lifting itself onto its back legs. It unfolded. Its spine stretched upward. Its front legs dropped down like long, thin arms. Its head stayed low, tilted slightly to one side. It had the face of a wolf, but the body was wrong. Too tall, too thin, too human. It was almost twice the size of any wolf I had ever seen on TV. Its black fur looked wet, even though it hadn't rained. Its ribs shifted under its skin. Its front limbs hung near its knees, ending in long, curved claws. I couldn't move. The thing stood between the trees, staring at me. Then it smiled. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't scream. I just turned and ran toward my grandfather's house. The grocery bag slammed against my leg. My flashlight beam bounced wildly across the road. Branches whipped my face. I heard something fall from the bag behind me, but I didn't stop. Behind me, the thing moved. Not fast, not charging. Walking, 2 heavy steps at a time. Left, right, left, right. It wasn't chasing me like an animal. It was following me like a person who already knew where I was going. That made it worse. I kept expecting it to break into a run. I kept expecting claws in my back, teeth in my neck, hot breath behind my ear. But it never ran. It just walked, steady, patient, close enough that I could hear the wet sound of its feet pressing into the mud. When Grandpa Henry's porch light finally appeared through the trees, I screamed, "Grandpa, open the door!" The door opened before I even reached the steps. Grandpa Henry stood there holding a shotgun. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't confused. He looked like he had been waiting for that exact moment. "Inside," he said. I stumbled into the house. Grandpa Henry slammed the door, locked it, slid the deadbolt, and pushed a heavy wooden chair under the handle. Then he shut off the porch light. Only after that did he turn to me. "You saw it?" I tried to speak, but nothing came out. His voice dropped lower. "Was it walking on 2 legs?" I nodded. The color drained from his face. "Then it saw you too." Something moved outside the wall, slowly. The old boards creaked as if something heavy was brushing against them. I heard it move from the front of the house to the side, then toward the kitchen window. "What is it?" I whispered. Grandpa Henry gripped the shotgun tighter. "It's not a wolf." A few seconds passed. Then someone knocked on the front door 3 times, softly, politely. Knock, knock, knock. I stopped breathing. Grandpa Henry raised one finger to his lips. "No." Then my mother's voice came from outside.
"Ethan, honey, open up. It's freezing out here."
My eyes filled with tears. "Mom?" Grandpa Henry grabbed my arm. "That is not your mother, but it sounds like her. It sounds like anyone it hears long enough." The knocking came again. "Ethan, please, open the door." Her voice was perfect. Same warmth, same worry, same little crack in the words when she was scared. But something was wrong. There was no breath between the sentences. No footsteps on the porch. No sound of a car outside. Just the voice. Then it changed. Now it was my father.
"Open the door, son. Your grandpa's confused."
I got. Then it became the old pastor from our church. Then a girl from my school. Then Grandpa Henry's old dog Buddy, who had disappeared the year before, started whining under the porch. That was when my grandfather closed his eyes. He looked more hurt than scared. "Buddy?" I whispered. "Don't," he said. The whining became scratching. Then the scratching became a child crying. Then the child crying became my own voice. "Grandpa," it said from outside. "Don't listen to him. I'm outside." I covered my ears. But I could still hear it, because after a while, the voices didn't sound like they were outside anymore. They sounded like they were inside my head. Grandpa Henry turned off every light in the house. The only glow came from the wood stove. faint and orange, moving over the walls like firelight in a cave. "Listen to me carefully," he whispered. "No matter what it says, no matter who it sounds like, you do not answer it, and you do not open that door. What happens if I do?" He looked toward the window. "Then it comes in wearing your voice." For hours, the thing circled the house. Sometimes it knocked. Sometimes it scratched at the walls. Once, something climbed onto the roof, and I heard it walking above us, slow and heavy, from one end of the house to the other. The ceiling bent slightly under each step. Then it found the chimney. A voice came down through the fireplace. "Ethan," it was my voice again. Only now, it sounded closer. "Grandpa, please, I'm cold." I began shaking so badly I couldn't stand. Grandpa Henry sat with his back against the wall, shotgun aimed at the front door. I wanted to ask him how he knew about it. I wanted to ask why he had opened the door so fast when I arrived. I wanted to ask why he had been waiting with a gun, but I was afraid to speak. Because every time I opened my mouth, I imagined the thing outside opening its mouth too. At some point near morning, the house went completely silent. No knocking, no footsteps, no voices, nothing. The silence was almost worse. Grandpa Henry didn't move. He kept the shotgun pointed at the door until the first pale light of dawn slipped through the curtains. Even then, he waited. Almost an hour passed before he finally stood. "Stay behind me," he said. He moved the chair, unlocked the door, and opened it. Cold morning air entered the house. The porch was empty, but the ground around the farmhouse was covered in tracks. Some were huge paw prints, too large for any dog, too long for any wolf. And beside them were other prints, almost human. Bare feet, long toes, claw marks at the end of each one. The tracks circled the house again and again. Around the porch, past the kitchen window, under the bedroom, across the back steps. Then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The tracks didn't lead back into the woods. They led down the road, toward my house. Grandpa Henry saw it too. For the first time that night, he looked truly afraid. "It knows where you live now," he said. That same day, Grandpa Henry moved in with us. He didn't ask. He didn't explain everything. He just packed 2 bags, locked his farmhouse, boarded the windows, and told my father he wasn't sleeping there another night. My parents thought something had happened to scare him. They were right. They just didn't know how right. After Grandpa moved in, the rules changed. No doors opened after dark. No windows left uncovered. No walking to the barn at night. No answering voices from outside. Even if the voice belonged to someone we loved. My dad thought Grandpa was losing his mind. At first. Then one night, my mother heard me calling her from the barn. "Mom, can you come here?" She was halfway to the back door when Grandpa stopped her. I was asleep in my room. A few days later, my father found claw marks on the back door. Not scratches from a raccoon, not marks from a bear. 4 long grooves carved deep into the wood, almost shoulder height. After that, my father stopped arguing. For weeks, something stood at the edge of our driveway every night, just beyond the porch light. Tall, thin, still, watching. No one ever saw it clearly, but we all knew it was there. Then, one morning, it stopped. No tracks, no voices, no scratches, nothing. Eventually, life moved on, because life always does, even after something impossible happens. I grew older. I went to high school. I got a job. Then I left for college and moved to the city. For years, I convinced myself that I had misunderstood what I saw that night. I told myself I was 14, it was dark, and fear can turn anything into a monster. Maybe it had been a bear. Maybe it had been a sick animal. Maybe the voices were just stress, exhaustion, and my grandfather's stories getting into my head. The older I got, the easier those lies became. Then Grandpa Henry died. He passed away in his sleep on a cold winter night. Peacefully, my mother said. No pain, no struggle, just gone. I came home for the funeral. The old community looked smaller than I remembered. The gas station was closed. The church paint was peeling. The roads were worse, but the woods were exactly the same. Dark, quiet, too close. After the funeral, I helped my mother clean out Grandpa's room. That was when I found the notebook. It was hidden under his bed, taped beneath one of the floorboards. The cover was old and brown, the pages yellow at the edges. At first, I thought it was a journal, but it wasn't. It was a record. Every page had dates. And under almost every date, Grandpa had written short sentences. It came again. Stood at the tree line. Used Martha's voice. I did not answer. It walked around the house until sunrise. I turned the pages faster. It used the boy's voice tonight. Ethan did not hear it. Thank God. It scratched the back door. It knows we are still inside. My hands started to shake. The entries went on for years. Long after I had left home. Long after I thought it was over. The last entry was written the night before Grandpa died. It said, "After I'm gone, it will come for Ethan. It always comes back for the first one who saw it." I read that sentence again and again. Then I heard a sound from outside. 3 soft knocks. Not from the front door, from my old bedroom window. Knock, knock, knock. I stood in the hallway, holding the notebook, unable to move. The house was dark. My parents were asleep. The wind pushed lightly against the walls. Then Grandpa Henry's voice whispered from outside. "Ethan." My chest tightened. The voice came again. "Open up." I forgot to say goodbye. I didn't move. I didn't answer. The window was at the back of the house, facing the tree line. The same direction as the old logging road. The same direction as Grandpa's farmhouse. The voice became softer. "Ethan, I'm cold." I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and stayed there until sunrise. I didn't sleep. I didn't speak. I didn't even look toward the window. When morning finally came, I went outside. There were no footprints in the snow beneath my bedroom window. No paw prints. No human tracks. Nothing. Just clean, white snow. For 1 second, I almost felt relieved. Then I saw the glass. There was a wet mark on the outside of the window, the shape of a wolf's snout. And below it, scratched into the wooden frame, were 5 words. "You'll come outside eventually." Maya already knew why the dean wanted to see her. The email had come in the middle of her history lecture, right as she was trying to pretend she understood anything on the screen. "Maya Sokolov, please report to Dean Lanson's office immediately." The moment her phone lit up, her stomach dropped. She didn't have to ask what it was about. Her grades were bad. Not, "I missed one assignment" bad. Not, "I can still fix this before finals" bad. They were the kind of bad that made academic advisors use words like probation, review board, and removal from the program. Maya was a first-year student at Westbridge Community College. She had turned 18 2 months earlier, and for most of the semester, she had been telling herself the same lie every struggling freshman tells themselves: "I still have time." But time had run out. Dean Lanson's office was at the end of the administrative wing, behind a frosted glass door with his name printed in black letters. Dean Victor Lanson, Academic Affairs. Maya knocked once. "Come in," a calm voice said. She stepped inside. Dean Lanson sat behind a wide, dark desk. He was thin, clean-shaven, and dressed in a suit that looked too expensive for a community college administrator. His office smelled faintly of old paper and black coffee. On the screen of his laptop was Maya's academic record. Red marks everywhere. Missing assignments, failed quizzes, low attendance. And at the bottom, one line that made her throat tighten. Academic minimum not met. Dean Lanson didn't yell. He didn't sigh. He didn't even look disappointed. That somehow made it worse. Maya, he said, folding his hands on the desk. You're not stupid. She looked down. You're not incapable, he continued. You're not even lazy in the way some students are lazy. Maya said nothing. You simply don't believe consequences are real until they're standing in front of you. She swallowed.
I can make it up,
She said.
I can retake the exams. I can do extra credit. I'll talk to my professors.
You've already had those chances.
I know, but
No, the word was soft, final. Maya stopped talking. Dean Lanson opened a drawer and pulled out a black folder. There was no college logo on it, no department name, no official seal, just a white label across the front. Discipline Recovery Program. Maya stared at it. What is that? A second chance. She looked at him.
what kind of second chance?
Dean Lanson slid the folder toward her. You have two options, he said. The first is expulsion. Your paperwork can be processed by tomorrow morning. Maya felt heat rise behind her eyes.
And the second?
The program.
What program?
Dean Lanson smiled slightly. Games. Maya blinked.
Games?
Yes,
What does that mean?
it means you'll be tested.
Like an exam?
No,
A physical test?
in a way. Maya let out a nervous laugh.
Is this supposed to scare me?
Dean Lanson's smile disappeared. Yes. The room went quiet. Maya shifted in her chair.
You can't do this.
She said, I can offer you an alternative to expulsion.
This sounds illegal.
Then choose expulsion. She stared at him. He leaned back in his chair. Tomorrow night, at midnight, you'll receive an address. You will go there alone. You will not bring friends. You will not contact campus security. You will not warn anyone. Maya's mouth went dry.
And if I don't go?
Then you're no longer a student here. She stood up.
I'm going to tell my mom.
Of course, Dean Lanson said. He sounded like he had expected that. Just remember to explain to her why you spent an entire semester promising you'd fix your grades and then didn't. Maya froze. He looked back at the laptop. I'm not your enemy, Maya. I'm trying to help you understand something most people learn too late.
What?
That fear can be useful. She should have walked out. She should have slammed the door. She should have called someone. Instead, she heard herself ask,
If I do this, I get to stay?
Dean Lanson looked up. If you pass, he said, you get a second chance. The text came the next night at 11:47. Maya was sitting on the edge of her bed, fully dressed, even though she had spent the entire evening telling herself she wasn't going. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. There was no greeting, no explanation, just an address. An old bus stop on the edge of town, and beneath it, 3 words. Leave, right now. Maya stared at the message until the screen went black. Her apartment was silent. Her mother was asleep down the hall. Rain tapped softly against the window. Maya could stay home. She could turn off her phone. She could pretend she never saw it. But all she could think about was the line on her academic record. Academic minimum not met. She grabbed her jacket and left. Outside, the city felt wrong. The streets were too empty. The traffic lights changed for no one. Storefront windows reflected her as she passed, making it look like another version of her was walking beside her in the glass. The bus stop was on a dead road near the old industrial district. There were no houses nearby, no open businesses, no cars, just a cracked sidewalk, a rusted bench, and a black bus idling at the curb. It had no route number, no company logo, no license plate. The headlights were off. The doors were open. A few people were already standing outside. Maya counted 9 of them. With her, that made 10. They were all around her age, 18, 19, maybe 20, first-year students, most likely. Some wore hoodies. One girl had a jacket from another college. A tall guy with messy brown hair kept tapping his fingers against the strap of his backpack. You guys here because of grades? He asked quietly. No one answered. A girl with short black hair crossed her arms. This is stupid, she said. They're just trying to scare us. Is it working? Someone muttered. The girl didn't reply. Then the bus driver stepped out. He was tall and thin, dressed in a gray uniform that looked decades out of date. A stiff cap sat low over his face, hiding his eyes in shadow. "Inside," he said. His voice was dry and rough, like he hadn't used it in years. "Where are we going?" Maya asked. The driver turned his head toward her. To find out why people study. The students looked at one another. Nobody laughed. One by one, they boarded the bus. When Maya stepped onto the first stair, the driver grabbed her wrist. Before she could pull away, she felt a sharp sting. "Ow!" she snapped. "What was that?" A tiny red dot appeared on her skin. The driver released her. "A mark," he said. "What kind of mark?" "So you don't get lost." Maya backed up half a step. "You can't do that." The driver leaned closer. For just a second, she saw something pale beneath the shadow of his cap. "Then get off." Maya looked back at the empty road, the rain, the dark, the message on her phone. Then she stepped fully onto the bus. The doors hissed shut behind her. The bus began to move. For nearly an hour, nobody spoke. At least, Maya thought nobody spoke. The inside of the bus was almost completely dark. The ceiling lights flickered every few minutes, giving her quick glimpses of the other passengers. The tall guy with the backpack sat across the aisle. The girl with short black hair sat near the window. Someone behind Maya was breathing too fast, or maybe crying. She tried to turn on her phone. No service. The bus passed through neighborhoods, then empty roads, then trees. Maya leaned toward the guy across the aisle. "Hey," she whispered. He didn't look at her. "Do you know where we are?" Still nothing. She reached across the aisle, almost touching his sleeve. Then the bus jolted violently, and she pulled her hand back. The driver never moved. He sat perfectly straight with both hands on the wheel. The road outside disappeared into blackness. At some point, Maya realized she could no longer hear rain hitting the windows. She could only hear the engine, low, steady, almost like breathing. At 1:03 a.m., the bus stopped. The doors opened. Outside stood an abandoned campus building, 4 stories tall. Black windows, cracked stone steps. A rusted sign near the entrance read, "Building 17." Maya knew the place. Everybody in town knew it. Building 17 had belonged to a private technical college years ago. It had been shut down after a fire in the basement. People said nobody died, but Maya remembered hearing another version from someone at orientation, that the college paid families to stop asking questions, that the building was locked but not empty, that if you walked past it at night, you could still hear lectures playing from the old speakers. Maya stepped off the bus. The others were already outside, gathered near the entrance. For a second, that bothered her. She didn't remember watching them get off. But the thought slipped away when the driver appeared behind her. "The rules are simple," he said. "Make it to 7 in the morning and you're free." The girl with short black hair laughed once. "This is insane." The driver looked at her. "No," he said. "This is an exam." The front doors opened by themselves. Somewhere, deep inside the building, a bell rang. The driver pointed toward the entrance. "Begin." The first test was called silence. They were locked inside an old lecture hall with broken desks and peeling acoustic panels. On the whiteboard, written in black marker, were 5 words: "Do not make a sound." At first, nothing happened. Then the speakers in the ceiling came on. A scraping sound filled the room, quiet at first, metal against glass. Slow, steady, wet. Maya pressed her lips together. The sound got louder. The girl with short black hair covered her ears. The tall guy squeezed his eyes shut. Someone near the back started shaking. The scraping became sharper, thinner, unbearable. It felt like it was sliding directly under Maya's skin. Then someone whispered, "I can't do this." The floor beneath him opened. He dropped out of sight. His scream stopped before it should have. The speakers shut off. The door unlocked. On the whiteboard, new words appeared. One failed. The rest, continue. After that, nobody spoke. The second test took place in the courtyard. The old grass was dead and flattened by rain. Stadium lights snapped on one by one, flooding the space with cold, white light. In the center of the courtyard were wooden boxes, 9 of them, long enough for a person to lie inside. "No," said one of the girls. "No way." The intercom crackled. The driver's voice filled the courtyard. "Get in." Nobody moved. Then figures appeared along the edge of the courtyard. People in black raincoats, their faces hidden, their hands at their sides, waiting. Maya understood then that refusing was not an option. She climbed into one of the boxes. The wood smelled like dirt and mildew. The lid closed. Total darkness. At first, all she could hear was her own breathing. Then came the sound above her, heavy, rhythmic. Shovels, dirt hitting wood. They were burying them. Someone in another box began to scream. Someone else pounded on the lid. Maya shoved upward with both hands, but the lid didn't move. The air grew thick. Her chest tightened. She tried to count seconds. She lost track after 40. The worst part was not knowing how deep she was. 6 inches? A foot? 6 feet? Then, just as black spots filled her vision, the lid opened. Cold air rushed in. Hands pulled her out. Maya fell onto the wet grass, coughing. Not every box opened. One stayed buried. No one was allowed to ask about it. The tests continued. A hallway full of doors where only one answer led to an unlocked room. A drained swimming pool where they had to cross narrow beams above a black pit. A chemistry lab with labeled bottles and a single instruction: choose correctly. People vanished in ways that were fast, quiet, and almost polite. No blood, no screaming for long. Just an empty space where someone had been standing seconds earlier. By 4 a.m, there were 5 of them left. By 5, there were 3. Maya, the tall guy, whose name was Chris, and a quiet girl who had not spoken once since they arrived. They sat in a hallway outside the auditorium, exhausted beyond panic. Maya's hands were shaking. Chris stared at the floor. "This isn't some college program," he whispered. Maya looked at him. "What?" "This is something else." "Don't say that. You know it too." Before Maya could answer, the bell rang again. The auditorium doors opened. 3 desks stood on the stage. A sheet of paper and a pencil waited on each one. Above them, an old banner sagged from the ceiling. "Education is your future." The speakers crackled. Dean Lanson's voice came through. "Final exam." Maya went cold. Chris looked at her. "You know that voice?" She didn't answer. "One question," the dean's voice said. "Why do you deserve to come back?" Chris sat down immediately and started writing. The quiet girl stared at her blank page for a long time before picking up the pencil. Maya stood frozen. She thought about her grades, the dean's office, the bus, the driver's hand around her wrist, the red dot under her skin, the wooden box, the people who disappeared. Then she sat down and wrote one sentence: "Because now I'm afraid." At exactly 7 o'clock, the bell rang. The auditorium doors opened. The driver stood in the doorway. "Congratulations," he said. "You're free." Maya looked at Chris. "Come on." He didn't move. The quiet girl didn't move either. "Come on," Maya shouted. The driver looked only at her. "1 passes." Maya shook her head. "No, you gave the correct answer." Chris grabbed her wrist. "Run." The lights went out. When they came back on, Chris was lying motionless on the stage. The quiet girl was gone. Maya screamed. The driver was suddenly right beside her. "1 minute to leave," he said. So she ran through the auditorium, down the hall, past the lecture rooms, past the stairwell doors, past windows that showed only fog. The bell kept ringing behind her. Again, again, again. She burst through the front doors and fell onto the wet pavement outside. When she looked back, Building 17 was almost completely hidden behind morning mist. The bus was gone. They found Maya near her apartment building at 8:12 a.m., soaked, filthy, barely able to stand, with a small red mark on her wrist. Her mother cried and asked where she had been. The police asked questions. Who took her? Where did she go? Was anyone with her? Why had she left in the middle of the night? Maya said she didn't remember, because any version of the truth would have sounded insane. 2 days later, she returned to campus. Dean Lanson was waiting near the entrance. He smiled when he saw her. Maya, good to have you back. She stopped in front of him.
What was that?
His expression stayed calm. What was what?
The games.
He looked at her like he was concerned. You've been under a great deal of stress.
You offered me the program.
I offered you a chance to think about your future. Maya wanted to scream. Dean Lanson stepped closer. His voice dropped. And judging by your recent behavior, I think you finally have. From that day on, Maya studied. Not better. Perfectly. She arrived early, stayed late, turned in every assignment, answered every question, stopped missing classes. Her professors called it a remarkable turnaround. Her mother said she was proud. Her classmates joked that Maya had become a completely different person. Only Maya knew why. Every time she wanted to close a textbook, she felt the wooden lid above her face. Every time she skipped a line while taking notes, the spot on her wrist began to itch. Every time a bell rang on campus, she saw the black bus. 3 months passed. Maya became one of the best students in her program. Her name appeared on the academic improvement list. Dean Lanson shook her hand in front of everyone. That, he told the room, is what discipline looks like. Maya smiled. Because people were watching, and because she was afraid not to. One rainy evening, Maya was walking home through downtown when someone bumped her shoulder at a crosswalk. Watch it, a guy muttered. Maya turned, and the world stopped. It was Chris, the same tall guy from the auditorium, the same one who told her to run, the same one who should have been left behind. He was alive, clean jacket, coffee in one hand, earbud in one ear, completely normal. Maya grabbed his sleeve.
You.
He frowned. Do I know you?
You were there.
His face barely changed, but Maya saw it. The recognition, the fear. Where? He asked.
Building 17. The bus. The games.
Chris slowly removed her hand from his sleeve. Not here. He led her into an alley between a pharmacy and a closed cafe. Rain tapped against metal trash cans. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he whispered, "Nobody died." Maya stared at him.
What?
It was staged.
No.
Yes.
No.
Listen to me. The tests were fake. Trapdoors, lights, sound effects, smoke, padded landings, underground access tunnels. Everyone there was an actor. Maya took a step back.
You were lying on the stage.
I was supposed to.
They buried us.
The boxes opened from underneath.
People disappeared.
That was the point. She shook her head.
No.
Chris looked ashamed now. They hire us for these things. Different colleges, different students. Usually, first years on academic probation. They scare the hell out of them. And afterward, the students get their lives together. Maya lifted her wrist.
Then what is this?
The red dot was still there. Chris frowned. We're not allowed to touch real participants.
The driver injected me.
Chris went still. What driver?
The man in the gray uniform.
Chris's face drained of color. There was no driver. Maya froze.
What do you mean?
There was no driver.
The bus driver. The black bus.
Chris slowly shook his head. Maya, we didn't have a black bus. She felt the rain sliding down the back of her neck.
You all got on with me.
No, we didn't.
I saw you inside. You were across the aisle. The girl with the short hair was by the window. Someone was behind me crying.
Chris looked genuinely terrified now. Maya, listen to me carefully.
No.
We were brought there early in 2 regular vans. We changed clothes in the old gym, then walked to the bus stop and pretended we had just arrived. That was the script,
No,
Maya whispered.
you boarded with me.
We stood outside.
I saw you inside.
Maya, Chris's voice broke slightly. When you stepped onto the bus, the doors closed. We stayed outside. She stopped breathing.
What?
The bus was supposed to be a prop, empty. It wasn't supposed to drive anywhere.
But it did.
We saw it leave.
And you did nothing?
We thought it was part of the program, something new. Then the organizers panicked. Then they got a message telling everyone to continue when you arrived.
When I arrived?
Chris nodded. You came out of the fog 40 minutes later, alone, on foot. You looked so pale I thought they had drugged you. Maya stared at him.
No.
Chris pointed at her wrist. What is that? Under the skin, something moved. Just slightly. Just enough for both of them to see it. Chris stumbled backward. Maya touched the red dot.
A mark?
She whispered. Who told you that? She looked up at him.
The driver.
Chris shook his head. There was no driver. Maya's phone buzzed. Unknown number. 3 words appeared on the screen. Grades are slipping. Maya slowly looked across the street. A black bus stood at the curb. No route number. No license plate. No headlights. The doors were open. And behind the wheel sat the man in the gray uniform. He was looking directly at her. Then he slowly raised one hand and waved. Thank you for listening. Check your locks. Turn off the lights. And sleep well, if you can.